It's good to be here.
You were recently appointed Kenya's new Special Envoy on technology. What does that entail? And congratulations on your end.
Thank you so much. I think it speaks basically to His Excellency the President's vision around how the Global South should lead on emerging technologies. We know Kenya has really been at the vanguard of how technology is adopted for development. And so the vision of the Special Envoy, in my view, is to look at how the Global South begins to take technology, not just as an ICT issue, but potentially as an enabler for development in country, but also as a tool for global diplomacy. We know now that a lot of the issues that we face, whether it's peace, security, climate, have an intrinsic connection with technology. And so I think His Excellency, the President's vision is to see how to elevate an envoy as potentially that interlocutor on how the world begins to understand technology governance.
Kenya has always led when it comes to technology. I'm not surprised that it's the first African country to appoint a special envoy on technology.
If you look at Kenya's vision, we are very clear that we as a country are part of a larger collective. So we have 50 plus countries in Africa, and you cannot develop in isolation. And so Kenya's understanding around how we engage both for our development is actually intrinsically connected with our neighbors. And you know, we've been home to a lot of our neighbors when people have been having challenges. And I think it becomes especially our responsibility as one of the stable countries in the region to begin to think beyond ourselves. The second part, of course, is that it's never about the specific issues. It's always about the greater public good. And so if technology is one of the greater assets that Kenya can wield and leverage to ensure that our development reaches everybody, especially those at the bottom of the pyramid, then I think you have a country that is stepping up and is thinking through how do we leverage on our capabilities so that we can work collaboratively.
So you are not just a special envoy for Kenya, but you also serve on other international bodies as a technology expert. So for you personally, what does this mean to have these kinds of responsibilities?
It's a big responsibility. If you think about how, for example, Africa is perceived. Every time we talk about technology in Africa, people don't believe that actually we have the capabilities to build world-class technology, whether it's platforms, whether it's software, that can actually help solve global problems. My collaboration with my friends at Shahidi, for example, was very much around how can you use technology to solve crises around elections. And so that is something that people never thought could be possible. And so you see now a technology that was tested, tried in Kenya, is all of a sudden becoming a world-class technology that can be harnessed anywhere else. I mean, at that time, we kept on saying, if it can be built and work in Kenya, honestly, it can work anywhere else. And that's just, it's the reality. Because it has to be rugged, it has to deal with challenges whether there's no electricity, it has to deal with challenges around access where there's no potentially very low literacy rates. And so I think this becomes a good testing case or use case on how technology can actually solve those problems at scale at a very granular level. And I think the responsibility therefore that I've had a sense that I've had over time is to bring that into the global.
What makes Kenya attractive? Kenya is arguably one of those countries where being able to attract investment when it comes to technology. You have a lot of homegrown technologies that have transcended borders. What makes Kenya what it is?
Kenyans are very innovative. Let's just start from there. The second part, of course, is, and it all boils down to leadership. I think we need to be very, very invested in leadership that is facilitating, especially private sector. The third part, of course, you cannot do any of this without democracy. We've had quite a stable democracy over time. Freedom of press, civil society is able to engage, people are able to critique. You have a very strong judiciary that you can arbitrate cases. We had a very strong ease of doing business regime. But also I think the final piece is investments. I think Kenya has been very deliberate. If you look at the current president and his entire manifesto is focused on the digital economy as the anchor enabler. So recognizing that if technology is the anchor enabler, you have to be deliberate on how you invest on this. We were the first country to sort of invest on the fiber cables. We're the first country to have kind of broadband. If you look at how we invest in the telco, first country to zero rate devices. One of the leading countries now to have devices being built here in terms of smartphones. So you can see the thinking around the deliberateness of this.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time, Philip.
Thank you so much for having me.